All right, CNT120, we're looking at Chap1Lab. We're looking at Layer 2 now. So the first podcast, we looked at the actual patch cable, the physical link from our computer into the network, in our case, the ISP connection to the hack network. We are now going to look at Layer 2. Well, Layer 2 is our network card, our network adapter, and with that, the address that's burned into it, the MAC address. Okay, so as we're thinking Layer 2, we're thinking those things: the network card that gives us access to the network, that passes data in and out of the network, and the address that's associated with that, the address that's burnt into the network card, the MAC address. So right here, I kind of remind you of all those, and I remind you that that network adapter and the MAC address have a lot of different names for it. You'll see a lot of different names for that exact address. Don't let that throw you. Just kind of think of them as synonyms. They're all similar. They all mean the same thing. So the first part, we're actually going to look at the NIC on the back of our PC. So again, the CPU that's sitting under the monitor, look at the back of that and look where the patch cable's plugged in. We are looking at that port, that network port. That is the actual network card. In our PC, that network card is built into the motherboard. So it's just another port on the back of the PC. So take a look at that. And what we're looking for is we're looking for that port and the lights that are around it. So we're looking for this type of thing right here, this kind of port in the back of the computer that we see two little lights on. One will most likely be solid. That's indicating that there's a cable plugged in and it actually has connection to the network. And the other one will be blinking. It could be blinking green. It could be blinking orange. Sometimes it depends on the bandwidth on the connection to that. But it should be blinking, indicating it's moving data in and out of the network card. That is what we're looking for. So look for that in the back. Notice the link light. Notice the blinking activity light. And with that, if you see them on and if you see them blinking, the question would be, does it appear that this network card, this Layer 2 connection, is working? And the answer would be yes. If I see that link and I see it blinking, I'm actually thinking that network card is functioning. It's moving data in and out. Again, for this part right here, we don't need to record anything. This is just a visual for you. Moving on, we're going to keep looking at this network card different ways. So we're now going to take a look at the network card via the device manager. So I'm going to, let me get a couple windows out of the way. We're going to open the device manager and look at the network adapter. So I can either click the Windows icon and start typing device manager, and that'll let me find it. Or if I right click on the Windows icon here, I can go to device manager. Either one will get me there. Once I'm there, this is all the devices installed in your computer. We want to look for the network adapter option. We're going to open that, click the little arrow next to it, and these are all the network adapters that are associated. Now, don't panic. There's a lot in here that are virtual, a lot that are virtual. So we literally do have Bluetooth connection. We actually have, in many of our computers, a wireless NIC built in. And then we also do have the one that's built into the motherboard. The one that's built into the motherboard is the Intel Ethernet connection. That's the one we're using for this lab, so that's the one we're going to take a look at. I'm going to double click on that to open it, and this brings up the properties for that network card, and we're going to look right here on the first page. Is this NIC working? And apparently it is. As far as the device manager is concerned, this thing's installed and it's functioning. Now, if there was an error, it would indicate it here or indicate there's something wrong, and I might need to update drivers or load a driver to get this functioning correctly. So looking at this, I see it's installed, it's working correctly. So that would be a way to check our Layer 2, our network adapter, through the device manager. I'm going to close this. I'm now going to take a look at my NIC through the network connections. Okay, again, I'm going to click on the right icon, the Windows icon, right click, and I'm going to go to the network connections. Here, I'm going to locate my Ethernet connection. Here's Wi-Fi. We're going to look at Ethernet. We're going to look at the Ethernet connection here. Actually, if I go back to the status here first, this is my Ethernet connection. And we see it looks like there is a connection the whole way through. So at a quick glance, it's like, okay, it looks like it's all right. That kind of gives me an idea that I do have connection through. It should be passing data through. Well, let's look at this another way. We're going to keep going, and we're going to look at the network and sharing. So network connections, we are there now. Let's open the network and sharing. If I open the network and sharing area, This looks like a lot of what people are used to from like Windows XP, Windows 7, that sort of days. This is kind of the standard that people would use for looking at your network connections. So we're now going to look at the Ethernet NIC now. In our case, it's the Ethernet 3. That's the one that should be the one we're connecting with, the Intel NIC that we were using. So we're going to open that, and now I see this again. It might be something that you're familiar with. I see that it has an internet connection. It's enabled. It's been active for a while. Here's its bandwidth, and it looks like it's passing and receiving data. So that would let us know that that network card, that network adapter is moving data in and out. It's passing data in and out. It's functioning. So again, another way to look at my network card, my network connection at layer 2 to see if it's functioning. We're going to go yet another way, okay? So I'm going to close these out, and we're thinking Ethernet 3. That's the network card that we're looking at, Ethernet 3. We're going to open our command prompt and see what the command prompt tells us. So in the bottom bar, I have a link here for the command prompt, or I can start typing command prompt. One of the two will get me there, okay? I'm going to open the command prompt, and let me try real quick. I want to make the font on here bigger, so it makes it a little bit easier for you guys. I'll try 24 to see if that helps. There we go. That might make it a little easier for you guys to see. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to run a command called ipconfig/all. Now, whenever you're doing commands, watch for typos, watch for spelling, okay? So the command is ipconfig/all, okay? This exact syntax right here. I'm going to hit that, and it's going to show me all of my IP configuration for this PC. And again, we're going to get a lot of these Bluetooth. Here's some extra adapters for virtual. Okay, so we're going to scroll. We don't need the wireless. We're going to keep scrolling up, and we are actually looking for this Intel Ethernet NIC, Ethernet 3. That's the Intel NIC that we looked at that we're using. So we're looking for that configuration. And what we're looking for, there's the Intel NIC, Ethernet 3. We want to look at the description field and then the physical address. Yes, so right here, here's the description field. Here's the NIC. That's the actual NIC we're using. And then under the physical address line, there is my MAC address. That is the address burnt into my network card for my computer. Now, what you'll notice here is, in our lab room, all of our computers start with 1866DA. All the MAC addresses in here start with 1866DA. Hopefully you remember from your reading, the first half of my MAC identifies who made this, who the manufacturer is. Well, since all these computers are identical and they all have an Intel NIC in, they're all going to start with 1866DA. That's identifying that Intel made this NIC, if you will. The second half for every one of us will be different. And it should be, because otherwise we would have duplicates in here, kind of like having two houses with the same house number on the same street. That's not going to work. So these need to be individual or unique, which is what you're going to see. So mine says 283DCB. Yours will not say that, but yours will be, you know, in that kind of field, if you will. 283CAB kind of thing. Unique, but not the same as mine. So there is my MAC address. Well, if I can see this, then it should indicate that my network card is functioning. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Again, if it were not functioning, I would not see that in the output. Let's keep going. Let's now look at another command to see if it's moving data in and out. We're going to use what's called the netstat command. Netstat, and we're going to do space -e. Okay. Netstat space -e for Ethernet statistics. And this is going to show us, here's the amount of bytes that have been moving in and out of my computer. Errors, discards, etc. So I have a lot of bytes that have been received, a lot of bytes that have been sent. Well, I'm going to repeat this command. Okay, I'm going to repeat this command, and I'll use the up arrow to do it. Up arrow brings back the last command. Okay, I'm going to hit the enter key, and I'm going to compare these two. Well, this number 50, 2050, 4820, that has gone up. 957, 1957, we have 7307. That has gone up. So in the time that we've been talking, it has added a couple thousand more bytes sending and receiving. So we know this NIC is moving data in and out. That allows us to see this NIC is functioning with that command. Okay. Now, at this point, we've looked at our NIC a couple different ways: device manager, through the network connections, through command prompt. Each one of those are telling us kind of thumbs up over and over again, our NIC is functioning. So what we want to do now is we want to gather our first set of results for the lab. So I'm going to use a notepad. You could use Word or something, but Notepad is a real simple text file that is nice and small that D2 understands, and it's easy for us to store. So I'm going to go here to start, and I'm going to start typing Notepad, and I'm going to open this. It's a little text editor, and I'm going to start recording my results in here for this lab. So I'm going to put at the top, I'll put this like CNT120 chapter 1, CNT120 chapter 1 lab, and I might even put in here, my name, Mr. Brown. It's going to get submitted to your Dropbox, so I'll know it's you, but you can put your name in. And the layer 1 we just observed, layer 1 we looked at our patch cable, so we don't actually have to record anything here, but I'm just putting a note for myself. So layer 2, we are now looking at our NIC. So I'm just going to put a note here, looking at NIC. And the first thing we need to record in here is we're going to grab the ipconfig results from our command prompt, and we're going to grab the netstat results. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up here where we had the ipconfig all, and I'm just going to copy out the Ethernet 3. Okay, let me scroll up here. Here's Ethernet 3. I'm just going to copy that part out. That is just our NIC. That's all the information on our network card. So I highlighted that, and I'm going to hit the Enter key. You could also highlight this and use Control-C. Either one of those will copy that result. I'm going to go to my notepad, and I'm going to put in here a note of command results, and I'm going to put in here ipconfig/all. That way I know what this is. And there is my first set of results. I'm then going to do command results. And this was the netstat-e. So I'm now going to copy those results. So I will scroll down here to my netstat results here, and I just need one. I could copy both if I wanted to, but I just need one. That shows me you looked at that and saw the statistics. Again, I can do Control-C, or I can highlight and hit the Enter key, either one. Come over here, and I will paste these in. Now, I'm going to save this text file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do save as. You can put it on your desktop, but you might want to, in the documents folder, create yourself a little folder. I created one that said CNT Brown. You might want to do the same thing, CNT and your last name, and put your files there. That way, people really should not mess with those. So I'm going to put it in my 120 folder, and I created a Chap1Lab, so I can put my files in there. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to name this guy. I think I have you name it something like CNT120 Chapter1Lab. Yep. So we're going to do CNT120 Chapter 1 Lab, something like that. And I'm going to leave the .txt on there. And I will save that so I have those results. Now I'm going to keep adding to this, so I'm going to leave it up. But anytime I add, I'm just going to come up here and do a file save, so I'm keeping those results. Okay. So there is my layer 2. We will come back in the next step and look at layer 3.